After 60, the way you manage money has to change. Not because money suddenly becomes more important than it was before, but because the consequences of managing it the wrong way become much bigger. For most of your working life, the basic money strategy was fairly simple. Earn money, pay the bills, save what you can. Work another year, earn more, save more, repeat. And if something went wrong, there was usually one powerful advantage still available: time. There was time to recover from a bad purchase, time to rebuild savings, time to work another decade, time to increase your income, time to start over. But after 60, that equation changes. The goal is no longer simply to accumulate as much money as possible. The goal becomes protecting the money you already have, controlling where it goes, and making sure it supports the life you actually want to live. This is where many people make a mistake. They keep managing money like they're 40. They keep chasing the same old financial goals, following the same habits, and making the same decisions without realizing that the financial game has changed. And that is exactly what needs to change. So if you're over 60, pay very close attention, because the first rule may completely change the way you look at your money.
Rule number 1. Stop managing money like you're still working. When you're working, your income is usually connected to your time. More years of work can mean more opportunities to earn, save, and recover from mistakes. But retirement changes the relationship. Your money now has a job. It has to help pay for today's life while also protecting tomorrow's life. Think about someone who receives $3,500 every month and spends almost exactly $3,500 every month. On paper, everything looks fine. The bills are paid, there is food in the refrigerator, the utilities are covered. There is enough money for entertainment. Nothing appears to be wrong. Until something goes wrong. A $4,000 repair suddenly appears. Now the problem isn't simply that the repair costs $4,000. The bigger problem is that the monthly financial system had no room for something that wasn't expected. This is why managing money after 60 is less about squeezing every possible dollar out of the budget and more about creating financial breathing room. The goal is not to live like a monk. The goal is to stop living financially close to the edge. And that leads to rule number 2. Never let your monthly income fool you. This might be one of the most dangerous illusions in retirement. A monthly income number can look comfortable while the overall financial situation is actually fragile. Imagine 2 retirees. Both receive $3,500 a month. The first spends $3,000. The second spends $3,450. They have exactly the same income, but they do not have the same financial position. The first has room. The second has almost none. And that difference becomes incredibly important when life stops following the monthly budget. A budget should never be judged only by whether the bills can be paid. The better question is whether the budget can survive a bad month. Because retirement doesn't come with a promise that every month will be normal. Some months are cheap, some months are expensive, and some months can be brutally expensive. This brings us to the third rule. Protect your first $10,000. Not because $10,000 is some magical number. It isn't. The point is what that money represents. Before 60, an unexpected $2,000 expense can be frustrating. After 60, an unexpected $2,000 expense can completely change the way the next several months look. Imagine a retiree with $18,000 sitting in savings. Everything seems fine. Then, the car needs $3,500 in repairs. A few months later, the roof needs another $4,000. Suddenly, that $18,000 has become $10,500. Nothing extravagant happened. There was no luxury vacation, no expensive shopping spree, no reckless decision. Life simply happened. This is why the first meaningful pile of cash should be treated differently from ordinary spending money. It is not sitting there waiting for a better television, a newer vehicle, or a more expensive vacation. It is there because something eventually will go wrong. And when that day comes, the person with cash has choices. The person without cash has problems. That difference becomes enormous after 60. But once that foundation is protected, another question appears. Where should the money actually go each month? This is where many retirees make another mistake. They treat every expense as equally important. A streaming subscription, groceries, medication, home insurance, restaurant meals, electricity, and a new pair of shoes all appear as numbers leaving the account. But they are not equal. Some expenses protect your life. Some maintain your independence. Some improve your health or safety. And some simply disappear without leaving much behind. That leads to rule number 4. Stop treating every expense as equally important. Imagine having $300 available at the end of the month. One option is spending that $300 on things that provide entertainment for a few weeks. Another option is using that same $300 to replace worn tires, fix a leaking pipe, buy necessary household supplies, or build the emergency cushion. The amount is exactly the same. The consequences are completely different. This is not an argument against enjoying money, quite the opposite. The goal is to spend more intentionally so the money that remains actually matters. After 60, every expense should answer a simple question. What does this purchase protect, improve, or provide? If it protects your home, your health, your transportation, or your independence, it deserves serious consideration. If it provides genuine enjoyment and fits comfortably inside the budget, enjoy it. But if the only reason for the purchase is boredom, pressure, habit, or trying to keep up with somebody else, that deserves a second thought. Because there is something else that changes after 60. Your income may become less predictable than it was during your working years. And that creates rule number 5. Build your budget around your worst month, not your best month. This is one of the biggest mental shifts a retiree can make. Suppose one month brings in $4,000. The next month brings in $3,700. Then $3,400. Then a large annual bill arrives. If the lifestyle was designed around that $4,000 month, every lower month suddenly feels like a crisis. But reverse the process. Build the regular lifestyle around the lower number. Now the better months have room. The extra money can strengthen savings, cover future expenses, or simply provide breathing room. This is what financial breathing room actually looks like. It is not having the biggest monthly income. It is having a lifestyle that does not collapse when the income changes. And that brings up something that is rarely discussed honestly. After 60, looking wealthy can become one of the most expensive habits of all. A new car, a larger house, expensive restaurants, constant vacations, the latest phone, designer clothes. None of these things are automatically bad. The problem begins when appearance becomes more important than security. That is rule number 6. Stop trying to look rich after 60. There is nothing impressive about a beautiful car sitting outside a beautiful house while the owner is secretly worried about whether the next unexpected bill can be paid. Real financial strength becomes quieter with age. It looks like a paid bill, a reliable car, a stocked pantry, a repaired roof, a comfortable home, money set aside for emergencies, and the ability to say no when something does not make sense. That is a different kind of wealth, the kind that nobody can see from the street. And perhaps that is the point. Because after decades of working, saving, earning, spending, and worrying about money, the purpose of financial security should not be to impress strangers. It should be to buy something far more valuable: freedom. Which brings us to rule number 7, make your money buy freedom, not just things. For decades, money may have been connected to responsibilities: a mortgage, a car payment, school expenses, groceries, bills, family obligations, work clothes, repairs, and countless other things that had to be paid for simply because life demanded them. But retirement creates a completely different opportunity. Money can finally be used to create options. Think about what that means. A few $1,000s spent on a luxury item might provide excitement for a few weeks, but the same amount of money used to make a home safer could provide comfort for years. Money spent on reliable transportation can protect independence. Money spent on necessary home repairs can prevent a much larger problem. Money set aside for unexpected expenses can prevent one bad month from becoming a financial disaster. Money used to visit family can create memories that cannot be purchased later. This is the difference between spending money and using money. Spending asks, what can this money buy? Using money asks, what can this money make possible? That is a completely different way of thinking. A retiree who has enough money to replace a broken appliance without panic is wealthier in a very practical sense. A retiree who can help a family member without putting the household at risk has options. A retiree who can say no to an unnecessary purchase because there is no pressure to impress anyone has freedom. And that freedom is often worth far more than another possession. But there is a final rule that may be the most important of all. Rule number 8. Protect the money you cannot afford to lose. This sounds obvious, yet some of the biggest retirement mistakes happen because every dollar is treated as though it has the same purpose. It doesn't. There is money that can be spent. There is money that can be used for enjoyment. There is money reserved for emergencies, and there is money that represents years of work and future security. Those categories should not be treated the same way. Imagine someone has spent 40 years building a retirement fund. Then, one exciting opportunity appears. It promises a huge return. Someone says it is almost guaranteed. A friend says everyone is doing it. The numbers look impressive. The story sounds convincing, and suddenly the temptation appears to put a large portion of retirement money into one decision. This is where caution matters. After 60, the question should not simply be, how much could this make? The more important question is, what happens if this goes badly? Could the household still pay its basic expenses? Could the emergency fund remain untouched? Could the loss be absorbed without changing the entire retirement plan? If the answer is no, then the money may be too important to expose, because there is a brutal difference between losing money that was available for experimentation and losing money that was needed for the next 20 years. One is painful, the other can change a life. This is why protecting money is not the opposite of being financially smart. Protection is part of financial intelligence. The goal is not to win every financial opportunity. The goal is to remain financially secure, even when some things go wrong.
If this video helped, be sure to subscribe for more practical retirement tips that can help make every dollar work harder.